Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I recently had one of our followers ask us if I would show basically a map of my garden areas. Well, I had to draw up three because I had to draw one of our West Herb garden. This is in the side yard, the backyard, and the front yard. I'm going to start with the backyard because that's where most of everything is growing. And then I'll move on to the others. Hopefully this isn't going to take too long because there's a lot going on here. And I'm also going to be talking about my plans and what I'm going to be doing with some of these areas that are non-perennial areas. So let's get to it and I'll show you what I got here. Again, starting with the backyard. Now, keep in mind this is not to scale. This is just a rough sketch I laid out so that you can get a basic idea of how it looks. So right here, this part right here would represent our house. So we have a sliding glass door right here. This is our back deck, and then our back door is over here. There's a wall here that separates the kitchen from the foyer and off into the dance room, or, well, it's not a dance room anymore. It is a multi-purpose room. By the way, I'll also be inserting some pictures here and there like I did in my last video so you can get a better visual with my silly drawings on how everything should look when it's all done. So anyway, here on the back deck, the blue represents the blueberries. So I've got 6 blueberries. They've been in there for 5-6 years now, all growing in pots. And then these are just random pots that each year may be different what is growing in them. And then of course, this is where our table and parasol are, that, umbrella. And then right here is a wood stove, our old wood stove that when we took it out of the house and replaced it, we just set it there. I use it to put pots on and grow pansies. I've tried to grow strawberries there. They did so. And then this goes off this way and this is a walkway that goes off between the shop, which is on this side, our 1,200 square foot shop, and then the house, which is here. Okay, so now going down into the backyard, these two things represent our septic tanks, our septic tank, and then the drain field is out here. So this is why I do not plant anything in this area. And then the main bigger garden bed, which I know I didn't draw this quite big enough. It's just not quite right proportionally because I know this takes up more room than what I'm showing here, but at least you're getting a rough idea. So in the main garden bed, these here are pots. The red represents the currants. The blue represents where I just put in the aronia berries. On just this side, on the outside, right next to the yard, I've planted mints. Putting mints around your garden beds is really helpful to keep pests out. And plus you're growing these wonderful mints. And then here, this section here is where my bean and pea trellis is. Right here is where I grow my tomatillos. The purples represent my lavenders. I've got some echinaceas. The yellow and orange dots represent where I like to plant my calendula. And then this is my catnip. Here this year, I'm going to fill up this whole area with potatoes. So that's what these are. And this darker green line right here is where I've currently got some kale growing in a row that I put in there last year, and they're still growing. They're doing good. I've actually been able to eat off of them a little bit every day, which is wonderful. And then normally I plant my corn back in here. This year I'm going to put it over here. And then here I'm going to try some sorghum. And then along this back section here, I'm going to be, I've been transplanting little by little some more of my marshmallows back here because the marshmallows get so tall. I don't want them on this side. So keep in mind, this here is the north side of the yard and this is the south side. So I want to make sure all the shorter things get planted here. That's why potatoes here, not back here, and corn and sorghum because they get tall back here. I'll be adding, and same thing here, there'll be miscellaneous other herbs in here that I know I'm either forgetting or that I will be adding. We also have posts in the ground if you see my garden, and you probably wonder why we have all these posts. Well, obviously one of them is going to hold up our trellis here, but they're also because we've got this sort of boxed in. Eventually we're talking about putting some, turning this into a greenhouse that can also be opened up wide on the hot days, but also give it more protection and maybe extend our growing period, since here in Rain Country we have a fairly short growing period. So from there, there's this little section here between our deck, and then here is our greenhouse. So on the outside of the greenhouse in these pots here, there's 2 rows, you know, one on top of the other, is where I like to grow my lettuces now. This is a blackberry shrub. This is a plum tree in a pot that we may or may not keep. This thing marked in blue isn't actually blue. It's actually where we have the wound up hose that hooks up to our rainwater. So I can water, and it's a very long hose, and I can water the whole garden back here with just rainwater, and that works out really good for us. And then the darker green swirly marks you see all around here, these are the grapevines. So I've got a grape plant here, here, and here. So I have 3. I used to have 4. There was one more there, but for some reason that one died one year. And then these grapevines grow all along the these beams that we put across around the outside edges of the deck, and then again along here we made a hefty trellis right there too, so they go all across here. That's how we end up with so many grapes. So they grow upwards, they're up out of the way. That gives us more garden space down in here for other things. And then of course the greenhouse is now going to be set aside just for tomatoes, peppers, and melons and or cucumbers. And so that's there because melons and cucumbers just don't do really good here. We just don't have a long enough hot season, and it's not quite warm enough, at least for the ones I've tried, but they do good in the greenhouse. Okay, then this area back here is just another covered area. Patrick, you know, we keep our garbage cans in there. Patrick parks his motorcycle in there, and these two blue things represent our main rainwater collection where we collect it from. There's more on our rainwater collection that we haven't talked about yet. We'll get to eventually. We actually have 2 1,100 gallon tanks too. So these are just 55 gallons here. And then over here, if I come back over here, this other blue thing here represents the another rainwater collection. This is just a tote. And I can't remember how many gallons in it. Somebody will know. I don't remember how many, it's, you know, something 100 gallons, whatever, I don't know. Maybe it's just 100 gallons. But anyway, so this is just right here. This little brown triangle is kind of a garden area that I use off and on. I have a rhubarb growing in here. We'll see how it does this year. It usually does decent right here, even though this area right here gets absolutely no sun, no direct sun. None of this area here from this line back gets any direct sun. Well, coming back around, let's circle around. This line going across here represents my clothesline, but we also are going to be putting in another some more solar panels. We already have them. We've had them for a couple years, but they're going to be installed here facing south. So we, you know, our solar panels, their shop is over here, and our solar panels are on this side of the shop facing east, which isn't the best place to put them, but because of the way our whole yard and neighborhood and everything's laid out, we thought it would be best to put it there. So if we put some more back here facing south, we should get a lot more solar power. This here is our fire pit, and then this here is the arched area with the cattle panels where I grow my squash and more beans and peas. For several years in a row, this was my main potato patch. I don't know that I'll be doing any potatoes in there this year since I'm dedicating this whole area to potatoes, and then another big spot in the front yard to potatoes. Okay, and then here is the playhouse upstairs and chicken coop downstairs. The playhouse has been there for years. You know, since the boys were little tiny, Patrick built the playhouse and it's up on stilts, and then a couple years ago closed it in and turned it into the bottom part into a chicken coop, and it's very solid. It's got a concrete foundation. We have a video, I have a time-lapse video showing kind of him putting that together. I'll go ahead and link to it up here in the corner. That one I think should be about 2 years old, but it's, you know, anyway, it was pretty good. It was really exciting to get that in. And then this is the chicken coop, their chicken yard. You know, they got a couple of roosts so they can hang out there. But typically I just leave the gate open. I open up this gate here. This is the door into the coop. And then they just, you know, we just let them free range all around the backyard. And then this green back here, this is the laurel bushes that separate our property from the neighbors behind us. And then along here is our fence between us and the neighbors just to the east of us. And this represents where typically we would normally have our firewood stacked. The reason it's not stacked there right now is because we still have some work to do on this fence. Pat rebuilt the fence a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, rebuilt this whole fence. And then what we're doing now is a little at a time is adding to the top of the fence. I know it sounds weird, but the way he's got it set up, you have to see it to understand it. And then making this a little taller to give us more privacy and the neighbors more privacy from each other. And then this is just a pile of lumber that one of these days is going to be moved. And we also have a pile here that I didn't draw in, and another pile somewhere else. I don't recall. Well, maybe it's just here and here. I think there's another one over here. But what I'm going to do is, and originally my raspberries were here, but last year something happened and they were doing good for a couple of years right here, just fine against this side of the house. And then all of a sudden, and I don't know if it was because of the morning glory, which I don't think it was the morning glory, but it also got overtaken by creeping buttercup, which is just, it's just terrible stuff. And for whatever reason, the raspberries just don't want to do good there anymore. So what I'm thinking about doing is just maybe tilling this up, putting some black plastic over it, and then letting Patrick move all his lumber piles all on top of here, and we'll just leave that alone and let it just, not do anything for a few years, and then maybe eventually we'll start growing in it again. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for the backyard. I know I'm probably forgetting some main things here, but probably forgetting a few important things. Now this space right here, this walkway is actually not quite that wide, so again, this garden probably comes more to here and maybe back a little bit further, but because I know it's bigger than this, I've drawn it way too small. But anyway, there's a little section here that I'm not currently not growing anything in because of eventually finishing out this fence. I don't want to plant anything here yet. And then we'll be putting the firewood back in here. And then we may do something with this area here eventually, but we can't do anything until all of this here is done with that fence, because otherwise it'll be in the way when he's adding onto that fence. Okay, so flipping over, going into the front yard. So if you were looking at the backyard this way, so here's the space between the house and the fence, and then you come over here and that same space is right here. So here's where those raspberries were. Here's our double gate that goes into the front yard. Okay, so you see we're not doing anything with this right here because we want to leave this open as a way that if we ever need to drive back in there, which we do sometimes need to drive back in there, we need to leave that open so we can get through there. So no fruit trees here, nothing. However, you see this green line I put here? Currently, there's absolutely nothing here. There's no fence or anything. What I would like to do eventually is put like just a simple chain link fence, maybe a 4-foot fence right here. I mean, even 3 foot would be fine. And then plant something along here, some kind of berry bushes or something that will maybe climb on that. I would prefer it if I could find something that was evergreen, but at any rate, I don't think I can find something that's evergreen that's also fruit bearing that would make a nice privacy shrub here. I would like to do the same thing in the front, across the front as well, because this is the street side right here. This is the front of our house. So here's the house. Here is the room that I'm in right now. This is my former martial arts and dance room. And, we had this built and we did some of it ourselves, quite a bit of it ourselves. And now since I've retired from dance and martial arts, this is turning into just a big work room / rec room / dining room, just kind of everything. We will be doing a tour on that in the future. I'm very excited. It's been coming together. But anyway, so this is where I'm growing most of my vegetables out front. Now, initially, this only came out to here and it just had a couple of shrubs here and then this juniper bush right here. And then, here are just decorative stuff. I got a Japanese maple, an azalea, and a rhododendron. I'm still having a hard time letting those go because these two things here and these all stay green all through the winter. So they're the only things we have out there that show some kind of life on them all through the year. And so I kind of like leaving those there. for now, but I am going to be pruning back the juniper, and because it is just getting a little bit too big. This is the Camellia japonica, the one that I used to make some black tea in a video a while back. And then this, I don't know what it's called, but it's beautiful, and I'm just having a hard time getting rid of it. So this year, what I'm going to do, these two red spots, I've already transplanted some rhubarb here that I split in half and then put them here. I had it back here, and it just wasn't getting quite enough sun because of all the other vegetables sort of grew over it last year. And then this whole patch here is where I'm going to start with just potatoes. So if you saw that one when I did the walkthrough and I was showing this area, I'm going to be growing all just potatoes in this section right here. And then when they're done, because the potatoes, you plant them earlier than everything else here, and then when they're done, you dig them up, and then I can plant other things. So the red represents me. I'm going to be putting in some amaranth and probably some other things I might be planting. I'm not going to be putting short things in there like beets and carrots, because the zucchini, which I'm going to put here, will totally overtake all that, and then it won't get any sun. So it's got to be taller things like the amaranth. And back here I'm thinking about putting a row of broomstick sorghum, which is more just a decorative thing, but you can actually use it to make brooms. I think it's called broomstick. I got seeds for that anyway. So you come over here, these lines here represent where I'm planning on planting some carrots and the sugar beets, the non-GMO sugar beets. And then back here is some marshmallow. I like to plant it right here because we have this big window right here, and this will give us a little bit of privacy in the middle of summer when these are grown up. Right here, currently I have the 2 figs that I got with the certificate I got from Lisa, and then the pansies, a little box of pansies. And then right now, my tomatoes and peppers at this moment are right here, but any day now I'm going to move. They've just gotten so huge in here. I cannot believe how well they've grown. Taken out, see, we had the ash tree, the cedar tree, and then we had another Asian cedar right here. And once all these, we finally got all of them out, the amount of light we're getting in this window right now is incredible, and the tomatoes are just going crazy. I've never seen them do that when trying to start them from seed inside. Okay, so now onto the fruit trees. So here's the little dwarf peach tree that we moved from the greenhouse. This is the peach tree we moved out here a couple years ago that we had in a pot. And then this was the plum tree that this year we moved to the front from a pot. And then these are the 2 brand new trees we just got. So the pineapple quince and the Stella cherry, and then this is a Bing cherry, and it's just little tiny right now. It's just a stick pretty much. And same thing here. This is another Bing cherry that I stuck in a pot. We may or may not keep, it just depends. Right now we want to hold on to it to see how this one does first. And then let's see, and then here, I didn't finish talking about this. I said marshmallow. I've got a lot of peppermint growing in here. I've got oregano, I've got sage, and I think a few other herbs growing in there that I'm forgetting. Okay, so then coming around this side, the south side of the house, this is the trailer. My son owns this trailer right now. It was ours. We sold it to him. He lived in it for a while, but now he's moved out and lives in his apartment. He still owns the trailer. We may consider buying it back from him if he has no use for it. And then anyway, this is just this narrow strip for herbs right here. So I've got marshmallows in here. Those are the perennials. I got thyme in here. And then the yellow and orange and pink represent me putting in some more calendula along here. This is a really good spot to grow calendula. Sometimes I'll grow it out here too. But same thing though, the zucchini tends to take it over. So I might even plant it around in here somewhere. And then that one currant. That's one of the currants right there. So I have a total of 4 currants. I have 2 in the backyard. I have 1 right here. And then when you go around the corner, which is right here, so there's that currant, there's that trailer, okay? And then this is the side yard. There's another currant here, my rose bush. I've got elderberries, I've got lavender, I've got rosemary, sage, oregano, peppermint, mojito mint is in here somewhere, like right in here, and lemon balm. I just put a bunch of different colors in there because I do not have a photographic memory and I didn't go outside and look at everything, but basically that's what's going on. I know there's another sage right here. And then this is the established apple tree that's been here for, you know, since before we even bought the house. And then this is the other apple tree, the little one that was in a pot for years that we just planted out there. And so right now this area is all opened up. I would love to put another fruit tree right here, but currently this is where we're kind of stacking, and we've got another firewood, a place for storage, firewood storage, but currently right here is the area that Patrick's using to process the firewood. So he goes and gets it, puts it here, cuts it up, splits it all right here, and then, you know, and then we take it out back. So his dump truck and trailer right there, and then our parking area is here. Here's our gateway and the walkway that goes between our shop and the house. And anyway, the parking area is actually considerably big. Let me go back so I can show you one more thing. So going back to the backyard, back here, which the shop is this way, on this back side, you know, we can actually drive through this section here, and then back over here on this side is where we have a whole bunch of firewood storage there. So we have several places for storing firewood. That's actually the main firewood storage area. And then this was where we expanded when we wanted to start getting farther ahead, was along the fence line here. So it'll be nice to finally get this finished out and then be able to put our firewood back over here again, and really stay far ahead, because we were like 4 or 5 years ahead on our firewood, which is a really nice place to be. Well, so there you go. There's the basic mapped out layout of our property. I still didn't draw in everything, but at least of the garden areas and some of our plans, some of our future plans, assuming that we're going to keep staying here. We're just going to keep acting like we are. So we're going to keep moving ahead on making this place as self-sufficient as possible. And it's just, I tell you, this year I think I'm a lot more excited. I get excited every year when it comes garden season and starting to put things in the ground. I can hardly wait to put things in the ground. But this year is especially exciting. I'm not really sure what the change is, but some of it's, you know, getting the new fruit trees, and then some new things that I'm going to try. But, you know, seeing how well my tomatoes are doing, starting them from seed, it's just the best I've ever seen them do. And I'm really getting anxious to see just how they will do once they're moved out into the greenhouse, and just so many things. And, you know, and then of course expanding that front area. Oh, I want to show you one more thing before I finish up. So this front area, I was starting to say, it used to be just back here, there was just nothing but shrubs. And then a couple years ago, I just brought it out a little bit and planted some stuff out. And then next year I brought it out more, then the next year brought it out more, and then we brought it out even farther. In fact, this line is kind of a rough drawing, because right in here, I'm not exactly sure, we're not quite done with this. And so it might even come out like this. I'm not sure yet. That should be it. Watch for more garden updates coming down the road. It should be fun. My goal is to try to get up at least one garden update of some kind once a week. Usually every Thursday is the day that I'm trying to get those up, because that's the day that I leave open in the week. You know, because my videos are scheduled 3 weeks in advance, but I leave this one day every week open, so that when I put an update up like this one, it's going to go up within 1 to 2 days of me actually shooting it, so that when you see it, you know that's pretty close to the time frame. That's actually what's really going on right now in the garden areas. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you're really enjoying watching the progress of the garden as it comes along for yet another year here in Rain Country. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.